Welcome back to Behind the Wealth Show. I'm your host, Roger Abel. I've got Elias Randall back in the studio today. A couple articles, we always like to catch up on a few of these, and two really caught my attention. And we started talking about this last fall, Elias, but credit card debt, I think it was last October, November, actually hit its all-time high in terms of dollars on credit cards. This month, we just hit the highest delinquency rate, so 30 days past due on credit cards since 2012. And I think that's telling about what's happening in the economy and some of the things that maybe we don't always see just in the pure inflation data that's released by the government.
I think that's true. It might be it's probably a sign of some just overall economic slowdown, and it definitely means there are consumers that are kind of getting squeezed on their budget, right? If you're delinquent on your credit cards, that means you're foregoing that payment because you got other things you need to pay for.
One of the things the article brought up, which I actually believe, I think part of our U.S. economy spending problem, because I believe there's a spending problem. I think most people are overspending on things that aren't needed. And I know that because I do it on things too. It's the convenience and ability to buy anything at the snap of a finger on your phone. And you no longer have to drive to the store to get it. Oh, I need, if you need a special utensil for cooking, the one time you're going to use it, you can have it to your house in some cases the same day. So I think there's a lot of things that are getting bought and purchased because the ease of the phone, and there's never the feeling of like a real transaction. Think of a transaction when you go into a store and you hand them a $100 bill versus handing them the credit card.
Yeah, I know which one's more painful.
The cash.
Yeah,
100% of the time.
Cash go bye-bye.
Well, there's a reason every restaurant advertises credit cards. Some are no cash now. It's card only. They know you will spend more if you're putting it on a card.
I went to a cafe in a really small town the other day. Cash only.
You must have been in Dyersville.
No, I was in Morning Sun, Iowa, down in southeast Iowa.
I
carry some cash typically, so I had cash, but I thought that was odd because most places you see it's getting more popular where you see no cash. You can't even spend your cash if you wanted to, and they don't transact in credit cards down there. So it was kind of cool to see.
15 years ago, I had that happen to me. I was actually meeting a customer, and he knew it was going to happen. He's like, "Hey, let's go to breakfast," and it was actually a setup. Like he knew it was a setup. Let's go to breakfast. And I'm like, all right, that sounds great. And go to this restaurant, we go get the check. I'm like, I'll get the check. I go to the counter and it's cash only.
Was there a bank nearby?
I don't have any cash. He goes, I got it. And he's like, I knew this would happen. He goes, but
so fortunately, this place shared a parking lot with the bank in town, and there was an ATM. So even if I not had any, as long as I had my debit card, I could have went over to the bank and accessed some cash.
There's a couple other things in this article that they talk about that I wasn't maybe that aware of, but apparently there's a new law that's going through that caps credit card late fees at $8. And I understand why that is seen as good for the consumer, but once the pain goes away of paying late, doesn't it just become a bigger problem? I think most credit card late fees are like $30. The article says $32. If you have a late bill and you pay $32, a lot of people think twice about it. $8? They're like, yeah, whatever. I'll wait to pay it next month.
I thought that was odd. That seems pretty low to cap it.
We're encouraging people to pay late.
Doesn't it seem like that?
It seems to me that way.
And if and as you said, if there's no pain involved, well, that's not that people aren't going to learn good consumer habits. It's only $8 to pay late. That's nothing. But if it's 30 or 35, that's at least painful.
What's next? Your credit score doesn't get affected? Is that next?
Yeah, you just borrow unlimited money, never pay it back.
I mean, seriously, is that next?
Yeah, I don't know.
And here's what's a little, I guess, not nerve-wracking, but I think people should be aware of is we did a podcast probably 6 months ago on phantom banking, which is buy now, pay later. If individuals are late on their credit cards, what does the credit card company do? The first thing they do is they shrink their credit, right? If you pay late on a credit card, they're going to zap your credit down so you can't buy anything. Well, if you're addicted to spending, which a large percentage of the American population is, now you go to buy now, pay later. They don't check your credit. We don't even know how much debt is out there on buy now, pay later. This article said 40% of people have used buy now, pay later. Once you're out of money one place, you're going to the next. So I think there's some things out there that make this economy maybe not look as great as it is, even though inflation's back. And I mean, last month inflation was 3.5% year over year versus 3.2 the month before. So, people are still buying stuff. The question is, how are they affording it?
Sounds like debt to me. It sounds like people are using credit cards and buying now and paying later, and I don't know that people are cash flowing there's probably a lot of people that are not cash flowing their current lifestyle,
which is so unfortunate because these interest rates are 24%. I mean, it's the worst thing you can do with your money. The worst. I can't think of, you'd be better off burning it.
I was just going to say,
you don't keep paying interest if you burn it.
I was just going to say it'd be worse to take a pile of money and set it on fire. But then before you said that, I thought, well, then you wouldn't be charged any interest. You just wouldn't have that cash anymore.
Yeah, you'd be better off burning the money. Because what are people buying with this money?
I don't know.
They're not buying assets. What good asset?
Oh,
think about it. What good asset do you buy that you put on a credit card?
Chicken wings and
those
concert tickets.
Once again,
and golf outings.
And you get the privilege of continuing to pay for it at 24% a year. Like I said, you'd be better off burning it. So the other thing I think that is very ironic and is happening, and I wonder if this kind of change in mentality in Gen Zers, that's what we're going to talk about, has to do with they've figured out that this doesn't really work that great, and that's the FIRE movement. 3 years ago, FIRE movement was all the rage. And for those who don't know what the FIRE movement is, that's financial independence, retire early. And it was this idea that we're going to work really hard, save all this money when we're young. Maybe in some cases, people were saving 80% of their check. We're going to retire at 35 years old on X amount of dollars and never work again. Well, we've transitioned now into what's called soft saving, which is where their Gen Zers are prioritizing their mental health and wellness and today over saving for their future, which is also known as I don't want to be responsible for saving for my retirement.
Well, I think some of it, I think they're saving, probably not. Kind of my take on this was there is savings going on, but maybe it's not as important as it has been. And I think kind of the mentality is instead of, really focusing on being career driven and like the make it or break it, rise and grind type stuff, people are just more, they want to have a nice job. I think they're looking for more balance. And what I couldn't figure out through reading this is, because it kind of sounds like people are saving, but then it doesn't really talk about like how much or anything or where. So I think it's missing a little bit. But
they're not saving.
Yeah, and I would share with people that you can have a life built around balance, and that's not career driven or whatever it is. But that doesn't change some of the basics. Right? If you're gonna have money at any point in your life, saving it is going to be part of that, unless you win the lottery or, I mean, if you're in the soft saving mentality, you're not going to go start a business, right? There's no entrepreneur who, especially, I would think at the beginning is, well, I'm real focused on my work-life balance here.
Here's the issue, and I think this is going to become more and more prevalent. Is, we've talked about this previously, but we're approaching our first generation that the primary income source in retirement is not a pension. And really saving money, the reason you save money for retirement is to generate income. That's the reason why. It's not to have a pile of money, it's to generate income from that money. It's why people buy rental properties, so they can generate income and live from it. If you're a Gen Zer and you're not saving, you're going to wake up and have an issue. And here's the other reason I believe this. There has to be some type of reform around Social Security. Do you think you're going to reform the people that have paid in for 40 years, the people who've paid in for 4? So are they potentially going to have a smaller Social Security benefit in addition with no pension? And oh, by the way, we're prioritizing mental health and wellness, which is great. I'm all for that, over trying to get to a retirement goal because we have 40-year time horizon. And I think it's going to be a real challenge. I think we're actually probably going to see changes in how people retire. I think what it leads itself to is people are probably going to work longer. And I'm actually okay with it. We've talked about this before, Elias. I actually do think that you should balance your savings and, hey, this is how much I need to retire. But some people should get those experiences in life before they hit 70 years old, because you might not be able to do it. You might not make it there. But I just think it's interesting how we've completely shifted from save everything to basically save nothing. And I believe part of that has to do with inflation. They have to spend everything to get by, so there's no money to save for retiring early.
Well, there's not much.
Well,
right?
and think
there's
about
not
it.
much left. And, I think some of this with the different, this just seems like TikTok mentalities to me. I think you're far better off, which I like some of the talking points in this article about like setting boundaries and being intentional, but you can do all that and still save some money.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
FIRE movement. You're doing the FIRE movement. You retired 3 years ago. How's it looking for you right now?
Depends on how much you had when you retired.
Well, think about inflation. Think what inflation did to it, and now you're 35 years old and you just said you were going to retire early. I guarantee they're going back to work.
Yeah, I mean, if you were 35 and you had $1 million or $2 million, I mean, if you were 35 and you had 15 or 20 million, that might be different. But, yeah, trying to live, I don't know, and it depends on how are you living, right? I guess if you're in a mini camper and a truck or whatever.
Sounds like a horrible life for 40 years.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? The financial professionals at Premier Investments and Wealth Management are the guides you've been looking for. Picture this: a financial plan tailored exclusively to you. Our team of experienced professionals will work closely with you to understand your aspirations and develop a personalized roadmap to get you there. Whether you're dreaming of retirement, buying a new home, or sending your kids to college, we've got the tools to give you confidence in your financial life. We'll help you navigate saving and investing, retirement income, and tax strategies. Our job is not just about making money. It's about helping our clients make smart choices. We'll provide you with the tools and knowledge to confidently steer your financial ship toward a brighter future. Are you ready to embark on your financial journey with confidence? Visit www.btwealthshow.com or click the link in the description of this podcast. Your financial future awaits.
Hey, I got posed this question by an individual the other day.
Okay.
And they asked me, should I still invest post-retirement? And I thought it was
Depends.
actually a good question, and that's the answer.
Well, like, what do you mean, invest your income? Or most retired people are invested all the time?
Yeah, I believe that they were in the thought, there's two things here that are happening. One, do I need to keep investing more money? But number two, do I need to remain invested in the markets? Right there, those are two separate categories that we should define. So let's just talk about first, if you're retired, should you be, or what would be the situations where you believe someone should keep investing some of their income if they're retired?
So, okay, those situations would be you have enough extra income to do it. I would say you're also not like giving up any lifestyle items. I think if someone had extra income, but then they also told me that, there's stuff they want to do that they're not doing, I would probably encourage them on some spending. Now, let's say you got plenty of income, you're living the lifestyle you want, and you're not sure what to do with the money, then I think investing it is perfectly reasonable to do.
I see people get in the trap, though. They take money from one pocket, they take it out of a retirement account, and then they go reinvest it somewhere else. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they think they need to still invest. They're like, well, yeah, I have $5,000 a month coming from my investments, but I still need to save money. So then they go take a chunk of money.
Yeah, then
That's
pretty common.
If you're pulling money out of your investment accounts, there's no reason to be investing new money.
Yeah, I would say new retirees, people transitioning, that conversation will come up where, well, I was, my after-tax income has been this while I was working. I want it to keep being that because I want to continue building up my savings at the bank. So then, and that's a little bit, I like that, right? You want to always be secure, but why pay the extra income tax to just park the money in the bank and then pay income tax on the interest you're earning when it can stay in the tax, right? So sometimes there's a little bit of education piece of, I know it's not like you're not seeing your savings build up at the bank, but this is a really big savings account that you can access anytime.
Okay, the flip side, you're retired, and a lot of people believe this. I'm retired, we no longer invest money. And I think because they see as if they can't absorb any risk. We see this a lot with people who retire, or this is what they want to do or think they should do. And I think it's becoming more prevalent today because you can go get somebody, 4 or 5% in a pretty safe investment, and they feel like that's what they should do. When we do a plan, what's the goal of our plan? It's to help people quantify their risk capacity. How much risk do you need to take to be successful? And it's not more than you need to, it's what you need to. Because, inevitably, the less risk you take, the less bumpy the road is. People feel better about it. They sleep better at night. But you need to know what the risk you should take. I had a call from someone today. Oh, my account went down $16,000 the last week. I'm like, yeah, if you look at the very high, it's going to go down at some point and it'll come back, right? He's like, but I might retire this year. I think we should just put it all into cash. But what's the probability of success? So you know what I did? I ran it going all the cash. It's zero. It's the same guy. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought he was done calling.
I did too, but no, he called me this morning.
That's okay.
But it's okay. But his whole idea now is, but we can get a really good return on safe assets. And so in that situation, we go build a bucket strategy for somebody. I did that for someone last week. We just put 3 years of cash in a cash account, making a really handsome return for cash. That's how you conquer, sequence of return risk in retirement. And think about retirees. If you're 65, your time horizon isn't retirement. It's when you die. So you still have a 30-year time horizon. You just really need a way to navigate when markets go down, that you're not forced to sell investments. When those markets are down, you can let them come back and, get back to where they were previously.
Yeah, and that's just the customer's time horizon too, for how long they're going to be retired. And there's still a lot of families that like to do some level of legacy planning, money that they want to leave as inheritance for family members. So if you're, I understand if you're 75, right, but you have a chunk that you want to pass on to your kids and your kids are 40, well, we can start to make the argument that, well, that portion should be invested for a 40-year-old person, someone with a 50-year time horizon, which means maybe we're taking more risk with that money than you would like to for your money, but it's really invested on behalf of someone else.
Think about if you converted a Roth IRA with the intention, like you said, of giving it to your kids, your growth asset should be there.
I agree with that.
I mean,
that
that's
should be your
100%
mostly
right.
aggressive.
You hit that on the head.
Account.
That is it's at least a 10-year time horizon. And here's why I say I know it's at least 10 years. If you passed away tomorrow, your kids have to take it out. I mean, they can take it all at one time, but they could stretch it out over 10 years to get it out.
Right. In a 10-year time horizon, that's long enough to support
anything bad that would happen.
Yeah.
Typically. I mean, obviously it always comes back till it doesn't, but history's shown us that it does eventually come back. I think another risk that people should think about if you're thinking about trying to de-risk your portfolio is there's a reason cash and interest-bearing investments are paying more today. And it's because inflation is higher. It doesn't mean you're making more money. They just have to pay more to keep up with inflation. So if you go into this protectionism mode, it's a very likely that inflation will erode your savings over time. If you just sit in cash, it's going to erode it over time.
Well, if you buy, and I think you can find money markets paying in the ballpark of 5.5.
I don't know about 5.5, but let's just call it upper 4s, low 5s.
Yeah, somewhere there. And okay, if the inflation was 3.5, right? So you're really like your real return after inflation, you're only looking at 1.5% to 2%, maybe, right? So is that, you're not eroding all of your spending power, but it's certainly not probably growing the way that, some of the dollars that would be prudent for, but, I guess you just got to understand all those different moving parts of the situation so you can make good decisions. So I think really what the couple main takeaways on investing in retirement, the reality is inflation can eat into your spending power. You should have some understanding of your risk capacity, how much risk you need to be successful. And then it kind of, we all know the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? That's how we start to build out a diversified portfolio. If you have, some cash alternatives, you have some bonds, you have some stocks, right? That's how you're starting to get diversified, where you can grow a portfolio over time and still have income for it. And then I think when we talk about the risk capacity and defining for people the portfolio they need to be successful, right? That's really focusing on the client and what they need to be successful, right? It's kind of that old, hey, is this a good investment? It could be the world's greatest investment. It doesn't mean it's good for you in your situation. We need to work within what is good for you, what's going to set you up for success.
Another thing that and I don't know, tell me if you've ran into this, but I feel like in the last couple of years, I'm having more clients start to take over the financial affairs for their parents. You running into this at all?
It happened. The same people that's happening for you.
I don't remember it being that much, but it could just be that we have a certain percentage of our clientele aging into that age where they start to need help. But right now, I think it's really hard when you have to have a family member take over and help with your financial affairs. And I've had a couple situations where it's a little eye-opening about how people should start preparing way ahead of time that somebody's going to have to help them with their money, which is actually scary.
It is scary. So through some of the situations we've been through, for my personal situation, I think the year I turn 70, I'm just going to give up all responsibility of my stuff.
That's just because you don't want to have any responsibility.
Pick
someone else.
Hey, if I can live my last 20, 25 years and have zero responsibility, I'll probably be pretty happy with that. But whatever my kids, I think I can trust the most.
Well,
just turn over the reins and say, you're responsible for my stuff now.
So let's explore that. I don't think it just, you flip a switch at age 70, it happens, right?
Why not?
I think what happens is you start that conversation with them well in advance, and they understand what your directives and those things are. Like, I'm going to logistically how you get there, right? Every time we've had a situation where a client's at diminished capacity and the kids have to get involved, there's a period, like it's almost like a break-in period. Nobody wants to give up control. The sooner you start the conversations with your family, hey, what are your advanced directives? What's the trust and will? Who is going to handle all this stuff, and you get on the same page, the better it works out if you have to have somebody take over for you financially. And what's ironic is you put an age to it. So let me just throw this out there. You're a single individual. You have a stroke at 58. And you don't have any directives. How do you pay your bills? How do people get into your investment accounts? How do people help you?
Yeah, see, so, the situation, that's different.
Like
I'm just assuming I'm going to be, see, in my situation, I'm just assuming everything's good. I'm healthy. I'm 70.
Yeah, but you know how I assume everything. Everything's the worst from day one. So I look at all the bad stuff.
I'm a best case scenario person.
I guess. But I think it's ironic that we're just seeing a lot of changes in that capacity. And I think it lends itself to, if you haven't updated your will or your estate planning documents, you should take a look at it and make sure everything's set up how you want to have it. Since 2024 is the year of personalized advice, we're challenging one piece of blanket advice each week and talk about the reasons why it might not make sense for everyone to do it this way. This week, we are going to talk about life insurance. There's generally a rule of thumb that you should buy 10 times your annual income in term insurance. What do you think about that?
Well, whenever life insurance comes up, rules of thumb, just in general, they can get you pointed in the right direction. But there's, through our process, we have in addition to the investment planning, we have a process to help people with risk management. So, I think 10 times your annual income, it gets you on the right path. But, what if 15 years goes by and you've never applied for more and now you're making more money? At one time you had 10 times your income, but now you don't. I think the best way to do it is through some risk management planning and financial planning. And then I think the other piece of it, when this gets brought up, understanding what life insurance is and what risk it takes off the table. Like, in my opinion, it's income replacement for someone who's working and providing for a family, or just providing for themselves. But that's really first, let's define the risk we need to protect, and then the level of protection too.
So in general, I believe 10 times your income probably solves most problems, okay? But the challenge is it's not optimized, and it goes back to, do you want the optimal result or a result? If you get 10 times your income, you get a result. Good or bad, you get it. Let's talk about the situation we had with a customer about a year and a half ago. Highly compensated individual. They needed some life insurance. Through our planning software, we were able to quantify how much insurance he needed for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. Okay? Had we just done the blanket advice of 10 times his income, he would have had about the same amount of insurance. But he probably would have bought a 20-year term policy. Instead, what did he buy? He bought a 15 and a 10-year, because after 15 years, he didn't have any risk. His premiums were $3,000 to $4,000 a year less expensive. Accomplished exactly the same thing. but he got to pay $3,000 to $4,000 a year less. Was it the easiest way to do it? No. Was it the optimal way? Yes, because think about it. Do you really have the same amount of risk today that you do in 10 years? Likely not. If you're saving for retirement, let's say you're 50 and you're going to retire at 60. Well, how much insurance do you need past 60? Why would you buy a 10-year policy? The older you get, the less your risk gets. So I think the insurance side is you can get a result and likely 10 times does pretty good. Or you can go optimize and say, hey, I need 2.5 million for the next 10 years. And then over 15 years, I only need 500,000. In 20 years, I need 250. And it requires more work. But who wants to pay the maximum cost for insurance? The goal is to pay the least amount, right? And get the maximum benefit.
And specifically in that situation, clients protected for the amount of time they need to be and protected appropriately for their financial planning needs, and they save money, right? So what's not to like about that? You're managing the risk properly, and over time you're going to spend less money on the protection. So not a whole lot to not like about it.
With that said, I want to thank everybody for watching today's show. If you need help with the insurance side of things, we're happy to give you our advice and run it through our financial planning module, and really dial in how much insurance you might need. If you haven't started your financial plan, or if you need to update it, you can go to btwellshow.com or click the link in this description, and feel free to follow us on social media if you're looking for more content like this. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you have a great week.